Welcome back everyone. Alan Dershowitz, a lawyer from New York, most famously known for his connection with Epstein, was recently back on the Piers Morgan show discussing Trump's ceasefire proposal. On the other side we have Dr Mustafa Barghouti, a physician, activist and politician who was interviewed separately by Piers discussing the inappropriate views held by Alan. You guys want to stay tuned for this one, so grab yourself a drink and let's start with Piers and Alan as they discuss Trump's proposal.
Statements. Everyone goes completely nuts. They all think it's completely insane. What is your reaction to this, though? It's so dramatic. It stunned the world. But is there merit or method to the apparent madness?
This is the first bold, new, out-of-the-box thinking about Gaza, and it shouldn't be rejected out of hand. You can do it piece by piece. You can clear out an area of Gaza. I'm happy that President Trump came up with this idea. People say it's against international law to move populations. Well, was it against the international law for Churchill to do it, for Roosevelt to do it? Are the same people complaining when the Hamas charter calls for the transfer of populations out of Israel? We shouldn't use cliches like ethnic cleansing and transfer of population. We should think hard about what the realistic options are. None of them are cost-free. All of them will involve suffering. The question is, what's more important, place or peace?
Alan mentions this is the first bold, new, out-of-the-box thinking. It's definitely a first. It's not bold, it's stupid, and it's definitely out of the box. He also mentions you can do it piece by piece. This is not a puzzle. You can't play with people's lives. This is exactly the reason why the people of Palestine have been subjected to so much suffering, because the people who are trying to make peace are the ones who are making it worse. Also mentions, was it against international law for Churchill to do it? This is like comparing apples and oranges. Let's not forget that the Germans defeated France. Britain was in a dire state, with daily air raids killing approximately 44,000 people according to the Britannica. This was war. This formed part of the largest war in history. He is comparing this to Israel, who has been handed $300 billion in aid to fight against a group of people who have no tanks, no ships, no jets, no carriers. We've got this the wrong way round. It's not the Palestinian people that we should be afraid of. It's the Israeli government. He then mentions not using cliches like ethnic cleansing. This is exactly what it is, and you can't change the definition just so it suits your agenda. He also states, and I quote, all of them will involve suffering. Why? Why do all options need to involve suffering? I find it ridiculous that someone like Alan can say the only solution is suffering, when the only suffering this man has had was defending his abuse allegations in 2015. Let's continue.
You say it's not about ethnic cleansing or any of these things, but if it was the other way round, Alan, and be honest, if the big idea from the President of the United States was actually, we know how to resolve this, we're going to move everyone in Israel somewhere else. Right? Just hypothetically, we're going to move the millions of Israelis, they're going to move, and the Palestinians will get to, have that land, or they'll share it, that land or whatever that they're moving from. You would lead the call of this is ethnic cleansing. You would say this is unbelievable, shocking, appalling, and should never be contemplated. And I think if you're honest, you would admit that. If you're a Palestinian, you don't see this as the great rosy future. You see this as you being kicked out of your land, and it confirms the very fears you've been expressing about members of the cabinet like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and so on, who have been talking in this way for quite some time, that they just wanted to get rid of the Palestinians.
Look, this wasn't an idea that Smotrich or Ben-Gvir or even Netanyahu came up with. It was an idea that the current administration came up with. No, Israel is an established state. It didn't start the October 7th war. When you start a war, the way Germany started with Czechoslovakia, your civilians pay a price.
But actually what Donald Trump, when he was asked directly about what would happen with Palestinians, that most of them would literally move to Jordan and Egypt, both of whom their leaders have said, we're not doing this. And the general reaction across the Arab world is one of absolutely not happening in a million years. I get the boldness, I get the vision, I get if you're an Israeli, this makes perfect sense and it's great. But if you're a Palestinian, you're like, hang on, so we're getting kicked out, and most of us forever, from what they see as their homeland. And again, I just ask you, if it was the other way around, how would you feel?
Well, first, it wouldn't be the other way around because Israel has lived in peace. It has never attacked its enemies. Israel is responding to it by saying, wait a minute, let's not do any ethnic cleansing. Let's clear areas. This would be my idea, and it's an idea I would propose to President Trump. Clear certain areas, say the South, the Rafah area. Move all the Palestinians out. Let's not just reject it by using terms like ethnic cleansing.
The official definition of ethnic cleansing is the forced removal or killing of a population, ethnic group, or religious group against their will. And it's pretty clear from the immediate reaction from Palestinians that this would be against their will. Therefore, the forced removal of a population is, by the definition, ethnic cleansing. And it's not like people are exaggerating. That's exactly what it would be if it's against their wishes.
No, that's not true. International law is based on precedent. And I don't think anybody has accused Churchill and Roosevelt of ethnic cleansing. Peace is more important than geography.
Piers very clearly gave Alan the definition of ethnic cleansing. Alan outright refused that definition, which is shocking really, as I would have thought out of all people a lawyer would understand it better than most people, but obviously not. His response is utter rubbish. He states, and I quote, "I don't think anyone has accused Churchill of ethnic cleansing. Just because no one accused them of breaking international law doesn't mean that Israel isn't. Who's the one accusing? The ICC? The International Criminal Court." As a lawyer, Alan, you would have studied this very well. Next up, we're going to hear from Dr Mustafa Barghouti.
So your response to Alan Dershowitz, sir?
Well, I'm not surprised at all about everything that Mr. Dershowitz said. He is being a very well-known lawyer of murderers and a very bad record of even defending Epstein. But more than that,
hang on.
He lied.
Dr. Barghouti, hang on.
Don't interrupt me.
No, I'm sorry. If you say something ridiculous, I'm going to interrupt you. The fact he's a lawyer who's represented people who may have committed crimes,
murderers.
He's allowed to represent anyone. That's what lawyers do. Why would that be a stick to beat him with?
Well, he has a very bad record of even being a lawyer, and I'm not saying ridiculous things. Please respect me. He just lied several times. He claimed that Israel never attacked and never initiated a war. So they initiated the war in 1948 by attacking Palestinian communities. They erased to the ground 521 Palestinian communities and destroyed them. They ethnically cleansed 70% of the Palestinian people. In 1956, they and France and Britain attacked Egypt. They initiated the attack. In 1967, Israel initiated an attack on Jordan, Egypt, and Syria and occupied the occupied territories, which is now a problem we are living with. Trump is not only making a very destructive proposal, he is actually issuing a criminal proposal. What he is advocating is the violation of international law by ethnically cleansing Palestinian people in Gaza. That's what he is proposing, forcing people out of their homeland. What would Mr. Trump think if I suggest that all people in New York should be removed to Afghanistan or should be removed to Mexico? Of course, they would say, this is crazy. How could you speak about that? What would Mr. Dershowitz would say, as you have said, if the plan was to displace Jewish people from Israel? After all, we've been living here for thousands of years, long time before the Israelis who exist now in Israel lived here. So this is a very dangerous approach. It lacks respect of international law. It actually shows a great amount of ignorance to the history of the Palestinian people, to the resilience of the Palestinian people, and a great amount of ignorance of the geopolitical facts of the area. And it will not work. Of course it will not work. How could Mr. Dershowitz compare the situation now with what happened during the Second World War? We have now the United Nations. We have something called the international law.
So Donald Trump said he's thought about this for a while because he's not hearing any good idea to resolve this. It's been going on for more than 7 decades.
Why? There is a very good idea.
Well, hang on, I'm going to ask you. Hang on, let me ask you a question.
Nobody tried it.
Let me ask you a question. But with respect, what is your solution? If it's not this, fine. What is your solution?
Very simple. End the Israeli illegal occupation of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. Allow Palestinian refugees to have their right of return, and allow Palestinians to have a state of their own, independent state, sovereign state, without Israeli illegal settlements that have been built on Palestinian land illegally, and coexist and live in peace. This is the thing that was never tried.
Who would run the Palestinian side?
The Palestinians will elect their leaders through a democratic process like people do in any other country, including in Israel. If they don't want two-state solution, I have a better solution. One democratic state with equal rights for everybody. That it's either two states or one democratic state.
But would you look, I agree with you. I think there should be a two-state solution.
If they don't want, one moment. If they don't want two states, they don't want one democratic state. They want exactly what Trump is proposing.
Of course.
Ethnic cleansing. Right. And of course, Trump would not have proposed that if he didn't consult with Netanyahu before.
Dr Mustafa Barghouti spitting nothing but facts, and I love the way he puts Piers in his place. don't disrespect me. He also speaks very eloquently, bringing up that Trump is discussing a criminal proposal, which is absolutely correct. Let's not forget, when Trump was asked under what authority does he have the right to do this, he states the US authority. Dr. Mustafa's solution is one that's credible under international law. Why should the Palestinians leave when the law states they have the right to return? And again, he is right. The Israeli troops and civilians living in illegally occupied lands should be expelled. Why are they not being expelled? Who gave them the right to live there? So we're just going to move the people who have a right to live there to allow the ones who don't. Doctor also proposes a right to an independent democracy. Piers jumps on the bandwagon once again, asking, well, who will run their Palestinian side? What does it matter to you? When and why have we become so concerned about the management of other countries? As long as a country is a democracy, the citizens will elect its leadership. That's the whole point of a democracy. Criticizing this, we are criticizing every democratic country. Dr. Mustafa doesn't give one, he gives two viable solutions. Alan, I don't know what law you have studied, but you really need to go and do your homework because you're getting schooled out here. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace out.